Right, you have to be careful sitting down. These chairs are like ridiculously soft.
Very nice.
Nearly threw my back out earlier on. Okay, so a little bit of an introduction. Marc works for an organization called NWEA, which is pretty interesting. Do you want to share a little bit about what it is that they do?
So the company is based in Portland, Oregon. They've been around for 40 years. We develop testing software for K through 12th grade. So all the assessment tests that the kids actually take, that's what we develop. The company started, obviously, it's 40 years old. It started with paper, pencil. So they would actually take it with paper and the pencil and submit it in, and it would be scored and everything. We, I would say it was probably about 15 years ago, we actually started moving that over to actually a web-based, like a SaaS solution. So we are actually a cloud provider to our partners. Our partners are our customers. So we actually serve it through a cloud interface. They actually log in, all the students, and actually take the tests.
That's great. I was actually going to ask you about that because when you and I had chatted earlier, it turned out the company was formed in '77. It's like, okay, well, you're a web-based company, so if you're a web-based company and you were formed in '77, clearly you're no stranger to digital transformation.
No,
right?
Not at all. And I think, with the transformation that we did and moving to like a SaaS-based solution and providing it through the cloud, we're now across 145 countries right now, 9,500 schools throughout the world. That includes districts, and the company's expanding and growing tremendously fast.
Wonderful, wonderful. So obviously you're here for a reason, and you adopted RingCentral.
Yes.
But I would love to talk to you a little bit about when you were thinking about it, and what were your IT goals? What was it that you were? What brought RingCentral into your orbit?
Well, so that's a longer story. So when I actually took over the role as a director of IT services at the company, they were already actually in a project where they were looking at a cloud contact center solution. They were engaged with RingCentral. The contact center was on-premise. The whole phone system was on-premise at the same time with the Mitel solution. They weren't focused on replacing the PBX at that time. The focus was on just the contact center. But at the same time, they had a whole another project going on that they were getting ready to sign a 3-year contract to implement Zoom technology because they wanted to actually improve really the meeting experience throughout the company. We had 14 different tools, communication tools in the company at the time. And there was other products that we were already looking at and renewing with Adobe Connect. And so I actually called a timeout when I took it over and said, hey, we need to take a step back and look at a different solution. We really need to look at how can we simplify this, multiple chat tools that were being used in the company. We had half the company using one product, another company, other half of the company using another product. And it was very hard to find out, like, hey, if we had to actually communicate with different people, you would have to actually choose the communication tool that they're using. So it was very disconnected throughout the company. Half our company works remotely. A lot of the experience that we had at the time was just using really just the phone system, so conference calling. We didn't have a good way to really connect and really make it, the outside people make that they're there at the company when we're having meetings and really simplify that, make them feel part of that conversation. How can we really unify that? And that's when I said, time out, let's take a step back. We need to actually look at a unified platform and try to bring this all together.
No, I mean, that's a great story, right? Because, I've been doing this for a little while, and especially when you're sitting in front of an audience like this, no one wants to be first, right? Nobody here wants to be the first guy that's ever made this transition. So to hear that from you is absolutely wonderful, especially since it wasn't really the paramount thing that was on your list, right? You were trying to solve a separate problem, and then you came to that. So can we talk a little bit about that journey into UCaaS? So you basically went from on-prem, and then you moved into the cloud. So you sort of touched around the philosophy of it, but can you walk us kind of through how that went and how you got rid of the big iron in your closet?
It was rough. I have to be honest. To really move the company towards a cloud-based centric solution, they were already on board. We are a cloud company already, right? So, but to move a communication to the cloud, they were there for the contact center, but to move the phone system, and again, the phone system to an individual user is just the physical phone. They're all physical phones, right? That they don't understand the back end and what it really takes and to manage that, to make that phone work. So it was really trying to move the whole company and shift them to this unified presence, which to me was part of, you had to get rid of that physical phone. You needed to get to that soft phone environment. That was key. It was key to really unify and bring the company together, right? All these remote people, how are you going to bring that together? Majority of them didn't even have a phone. They're using their cell phones. So how can we give them one product, one tool, makes it easier for IT to manage, but for them to actually use, and that they can actually make a call, do video conferencing, share files, and actually do instant messaging at the same time, right, back and forth. To me, that was the key thing. It's the RingCentral platform. When I looked at, and we started actually taking this as a project and looking out there in the landscape of, hey, what's out in the marketplace? Who's out there? We did take it out for bid. We did an RFP. But what really came back, I mean, RingCentral is still at the top. No one could really compare to it, and a lot of the feature sets and the capability of it.
I mean, that's great to hear. I mean, thank you. Very flattered.
Yeah.
And we pride ourselves on what we do, obviously. But so you're looking at it from the IT perspective. What was the feedback from your user base? Because obviously, once again, there are two forms of transition, right? There's the technological shift, but then there's also the social shift as well that results in any
It is a social
kind of,
shift.
yeah.
So, and I kind of made a comment about it was very difficult, right? So we had a lot of pushback just with moving to the soft phone. And what's interesting is a lot of people didn't understand that you know, they felt like a lot of the comments and the feedback is like the call quality is not going to be there. How can I use my phone? I need to have a headset. I need to have a handset. A lot of our users did have like Bluetooth headsets, so we could actually mimic that for them and replace that. But still, the physical handset itself, that was kind of hard for them to accept and understand that. One of the things that we did in part of the deployment, before we actually signed the contract, we actually brought RingCentral in. And they gave us some test licenses, and we set up some kiosks, 6 kiosks, and did a brown bag session where we invited people to come in. And it was interesting. It was a 4-hour experience, and we had really 2 sets of people that came in. We had the younger kind of generation come in, and they wanted to see it, and they were very excited for this. And like, thank God we're getting VoIP, and we're getting a soft phone, and they just wanted to play with it. The second type of person that came in were more the non-technical people, the more, I think, older generation that they heard about it because we're getting the word out.
Steady, I got some gray hair.
Yeah, you know, they were, you know, the stress is there. You could see the stress in them. But once they actually sat down and actually made a phone call from here over to the next one, and they're talking, I mean, the excitement and just the amazement to them, like in their eyes, they couldn't believe it. Just the simplicity. And when they walked away, they're like, this is really simple. So that actually helped really engage the people and get them to accept it. But what's interesting is before we even got to that point, I had, and this kind of goes to your presentation, what you were talking about, and I kind of smiled when it came up. One of the things is when I was really pushing that soft phone. And for the people that have the hard phones and they're used to that and that's what they need. And this helped me, is I had many conversations with some executives and other high-level people in the company. And they like, oh, you know, we can't do the soft phone. How is that going to work? You know, I need to have a physical phone. And I go, well, you have a soft phone today. You all have a soft phone. They're like, what do you mean? And I pulled this out, right? Right here, your phone, your cell phone. No, that's a cell phone. I go, no. It's a
Right.
There's an app on it.
Right.
That's a soft phone. That's the same thing that's on your computer. So, and it actually, that's what triggered them to actually take a step back, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's all it is. I go, right, there's no difference.
Right.
You can make a call on that, right? Sounds great.
Right. No, look, I completely agree. And it's like, whenever I'm out sort of socially, and I come across friends or colleagues that produce 2 phones, my first reaction is like, okay, we got to talk, right? All right, so look, please.
So another thing I'm going to jump in too, actually, if it's okay.
Go ahead.
So one of the other complications that we had, before we actually did the full deployment, we obviously did a lot of beta testing. We did some kind of like a brown bag session and kiosks for people. We did do more of a larger beta test with certain groups within the company, our sales force, our account managers that are out in the field, a lot of our remote users. And during that time, there was a lot of feedback that was coming back that the call quality was really bad. And they're having a really horrible experience. And what was interesting, when we were doing this, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, that's when the kind of like the call quality reporting that RingCentral came out with, they just released it. That technology and the reporting of it.
There's going to be a happy ending to this, right?
This is a happy ending.
You're making me a little nervous right now.
No, this is great, is that using that data and the call quality, I could find out the people that were claiming that it was bad call qualities, I actually proved, this salesperson was on her cell phone. It had a 3G connection. They're calling this person over here. They're at home. It's on a Wi-Fi connection, but it's horrible results. So you have 2 people that have a bad connection, and the data was there, and I can prove it, to the executives. There was no comment. There was no, feedback other than that of, hey, we need to improve that. You can't be doing that. So it was really more working with the users and really educating them. You have to be careful if you're taking a RingCentral call. More use your cell phone and use,
Right.
And if you're going to accept the call, swap it over and actually use that.
Yeah, exactly. So when you and I spoke earlier on, I said to you, this audience wants authenticity. So I don't, obviously you're here because you're a good customer of ours, and
I'm a believer.
Right, exactly. But on the other hand, I also want to allow you to be authentic. So if there were, you've obviously gone through this experience. Your company itself is no stranger to digital transition, as we've already talked about. Is there things that you would do differently? Is there things that you would want from RingCentral that you didn't get, or that you would want to put on in the future? You've got an audience of your peers out here. Is there any advice that you want to make sure that they hear from you before they embark on a similar journey?
I'm trying to think about that. There's nothing really, I think more than just new feature sets, which, I'm connected with a lot of the development teams already and on the beta testing a lot of things. But I guess with the product itself and taking it on when we first went through it, there's nothing much more than I needed really from RingCentral. One of the key things, the takeaway from me actually transitioning the company, because we did it within, I think it was like 4 months. From the point that we signed the contract, we actually planned it and executed it within 4 months and moved, it was about 1,000 people, 1,200 people over to it, to the RingCentral platform. So it was pretty amazing. We really didn't have any problems with it. So, but it's communication. Be able to communicate with your people, your employees, get in front of them, get the technology in front of them. And really, the one thing is what we learned from once we went live, there was some additional training we had to do. It was more of trying to educate them about not calling in with your computer system into like a RingCentral meeting and joining that session, and then also calling in with your cell phone.
Right.
Because what happens, you start getting that loop and that feedback.
Right.
That was like the key thing, that was the number one problem that we've had.
Got it.
And it was a lot of just education to them.
Right, exactly. Okay, so finally, is there a right time to move to the cloud? Since you've been making these successive digital transitions since '77, maybe not you personally, since you don't actually look old enough to have been doing a digital transition in 1977. I do, by the way, which is one of the reasons why I look so haggard. But anyway, is there an optimal time if you're thinking about making this shift? Would you say there's an inflection point that occurs?
Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think there's a specific right time. Depending on your business and where you're at and what's going on, but with the technology itself, to me, it's proven. It works. It has truly transformed our company. It was a company that was really, they were more shy of allowing people to work from home, except the full-time teleworkers. That has completely changed. I've seen that already, that we're actually allowed to more work from home. You got the sniffles, please work from home. Don't bring it in. If you need to work from home for a week, work from home for a week type of thing. So that has really transformed the company itself. We host a lot of meetings. The company likes to meet and likes to talk. We're an education company. We hire a lot of teachers, and we like to have conversations. So in January, we actually surpassed 15,000 meetings. We've had 22,000 participants with it. The amount of minutes, and you just add it up, we have a lot of meetings. The one thing that's grown organically, we're still looking to transform our 60 meeting rooms to RingCentral rooms. We're starting that process right now with POC. But because we haven't really transformed all the rooms, what people have done already is they're bringing all their laptops into the meetings, and they're all joining the RingCentral meetings, and they're turning on their videos. Because the remote people are turning on their videos, and they're already learning, right, organically that, hey, if I can see everyone on my screen instead of putting up on the big projector, it's actually enhanced our experience in our meetings, and it's improved it. The efficiency
it's amazing
of it, which is amazing.
It's amazing how much communication is communicated non-verbally, right? So I totally agree with you. Once people adopt it, and once people get comfortable with it, it's a transformational experience. Mark, thank you very much. We're going to open it up to questions on the floor. So if anybody has any questions for Mark, less so for me, but I'll take them if you're interested. But you have here a living, breathing customer who's been through digital transformation, has experienced this. So if anybody's got any questions, we'd love to open it up to questions right now. We've got one over there. Do we have floor mics? Okay.
Mark, good job. You mentioned about things to do different, right? And you mentioned about how you would do additional training up front, right? And so do you have any thought of how that would look in a perfect world, right? We call it user adoption sometimes. We call it change management. It's used in the industry. But that's a very key part to a good deployment. And I find that would be the one thing I would have said, and you said it. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you thought would be ideal if you could do it over again.
Yeah, there is one key thing. So, I mean, what we did in the amount of communication we created, included printouts, a lot of emails, creating a portal, SharePoint portal, getting the communication out. We had digital signage throughout the company. We actually took we went on YouTube and we took a lot of the RingCentral videos, and we actually spliced it and cut it down and created our own videos to like what a lot of the employees would see and to really get that message out. We used a lot of the trainings from RingCentral to perform and offer trainings for people to sign up for and take and to learn more about it. The one key thing that I did try pushing, I was not successful, was really making it a requirement that people need to really take this training. That is the key thing. I think any company, and if there's VPs and executives sitting in here, is that your people need to take the training. If you don't make it a requirement, there will be problems. There's efficiencies and growing pains. So when we went live, that week we went live, we didn't have problems, technically. There was no issues with that. The technology functioned and it worked. The problems we had is the people that didn't take the training, they didn't know how to use it. They were confused. So that created a lot of issues with that. I mean, it was small, but we had to really work with them and have more trainings after. So that's the one takeaway I would say. If you can, force it. It should be a requirement.
What did you move from?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
What did you move from
What did you move
into
off?
RingCentral?
What did you move off to get to RingCentral?
So we were on a Mitel solution that was in-house.
So would the training have been necessary if you had already been on a competing cloud platform? Because It would seem to me to be a failure on RingCentral's part if it's not so easy to use.
No, I mean, so if you're saying that if I was already on a cloud platform and using a soft phone solution, I think if you migrated over that, people are going to be used to that. I mean, because a soft phone is a soft phone at that point, and I think you can transition over to that. It's almost like saying if I chose to implement Polycom hard phones, and I've done this in another company where I actually moved to a cloud-based solution, but I did hard phones. That transition went fine. People would have no issues with that. To pick up a handheld phone and type a phone number in and click the buttons, that's not a problem. They'll be able to do that. But really the transition of moving to the cloud, it's the soft phone aspect of it and moving that.
Anybody else? Oh, gentleman over there.
I'm just, oh,
Hey, Mark. I was just curious on your risk assessment, what was at the top of your list, because this is a big change for your organization.
The risk, honestly, it was really the call quality. It was the amount of calls that we can actually take and handle. So that was the highest on the risk. This was more tied to, because during this 4-month transition, it wasn't just the PBX. We actually migrated our whole contact center over to within this time period. So my worry and the top of the risk was how many calls can we handle? So we actually had to do some load testing of that to make sure it could handle the amount of calls coming in.
There was a gentleman over here.
it's a perfect segue. So I actually was interested in your contact center, how many agents, if you were doing call recording, any other compliance or call queuing requirements, and sort of how you did that part of the project, if you could summarize really quickly.
So we have 60 agents in our contact center. The call quality itself, I would say at the most we can have 60. We have more available ports, which was really interesting in talking with InContact. So we have actually up to 300 ports that we can actually take calls on with 60 agents. So we've handled that many calls along with our UC platform too, and have never had any issues with the call quality or connections. Did you have a specific question around more of the call recording?
I think it was more when you get into contact centers, you get into analytics, you get into weighted queues, you get into hold times, you get into callback. I don't know if RingCentral or that you layered another solution onto that, or how you ran a contact center with their software, if that makes sense.
So we're definitely using the enterprise solution, the InContact Center. And we do use all those features, and we haven't had any problems with specifically the call recording functionality of it, the analytics of it.
Great. Anybody? Oh, gentleman.
Mark, how many would you say percentage-wise still use physical phones in your company?
60 is the meeting rooms. So the meeting rooms are we have Polycom phones in there, and eventually those are going to be all transitioned to really RingCentral meetings. The rooms, so with the iPad, mic arrays, speakers, with the TVs and everything else. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Two gentlemen over here.
Yeah, can you describe your steps as you prepared transitioning from a legacy PBX to a converged technology? What things did you go through as far as ensuring your network was prepared and capable for that transition?
Yeah, so RingCentral provides a tool that you actually can install within your network that it does kind of its own load testing, tests the network for QoS, quality of service, and it provides that report back. So a lot of it's dependent on your internet connection. So based off that report, it will tell you what you have. Now, a lot of it, too, is really you have to have a decent network team to actually configure your network so you have a priority of your voice calls. So in our network, we have prioritized across the board anything RingCentral is the highest priority. So that means it's not just the VoIP calls, it's all the RingCentral meetings and everything else. It will take priority out the internet pipe.
A quick question about how many users for your video conference or how many users for even audio conference can be logged maximum at a single given point of time?
How many maximum can it go?
Yeah, how many maximum users for video conference and how many for audio conference? If you had to log in, how many can maximum log in at a single given point of time? Can RingCentral handle?
The maximum threshold, I guess, of our environment, I don't have that on top of my head, like what the results came back as. But we've had easily, let's say, I would say we've had pretty much like 300 concurrent connections at one time with all, if you're including all the RingCentral meetings going on and actually the phone calls itself.
I will say, if that's important to you, we can evaluate. Because obviously it's dependent on network bandwidth, right?
It is. The
Gentlemen?
bigger the pipe, the more you can push, right? I mean, it really is that.
Gentleman there, I think, had a question. He's right. The microphone's right there.
Sorry. So obviously the RingCentral solution has multiple pieces. What would you say, I don't know if it's even possible for an organization to start phasing in to the RingCentral solution from a legacy PBX solution with, Microsoft Teams, Zoom meetings, GoToMeeting, all of these disparate solutions. What's the best entry point? Is there like a gradual migration path or that you would recommend, or what could that look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because I made a comment that we had like up to 14 different communication tools, right? RingCentral provides a lot of different functionality. When we presented it within the company, we had a lot of conversations about that. Like, how do we pitch it? How do we sell it? And what we decided to do was really focus more on just the instant messaging standpoint of it, the Teams environment and what you can do with that. We didn't get into really pushing the whole eFax solution, like, hey, everyone has a fax line, any fax, you can do all this, because it'd be almost too much information overload with that. So there was core components that we focused on, and that's what we presented to them and really pushed. Now, some of those key things, like the eFax, we did track down like the HR team, the HR team that used a lot of the fax solutions. So we worked with them specifically and just talked to them. But the communication within the company, I do believe you need to kind of control that and focus it on really, hey, what features does it have? Now, in a lot of our announcements and what we showed, it was there. We just didn't push it and sell it towards that. So once we went live, over a period of time, we started transitioning all those other tools off of it. What was interesting, too, and I'm going to use this to talk about, we were using HipChat. If you know about HipChat, it was a Atlassian product. It's gone now. Stride's gone, too. But we had a product engineering team that was using it quite a bit. There was a lot of pushback on that from us, that I was trying to really force and really push in this company to get to a unified platform. They didn't really want to use that. And I finally I kind of backed off on it, and I said, I'm going to see what happens here. And I want to see, as the rest of the company starts moving towards Glip and taking that on, using it, what will happen? Will HipChat eventually, go away? And months later, as people move towards Glip, it naturally, organically, the product engineering team started moving more towards Glip. And it started with certain departments within the product engineering team that started using it, because it wasn't just the part of the instant messaging and that collaboration, because HipChat could do that too. It was all the additional feature sets that it started providing. So more of the tasks that you can create, more of the file uploads and the collaboration, how you share that. That was really key. And the task itself and how I can actually create tasks for other people and use it more like a project management tool, that is what started really allowing more the adoption within that team too. So it's been a big win for the company.
Thank you.